Hello again, welcome to the Readings After Dark. Now, I had an image here somewhere, but I couldn't figure out how to put it on my Google Chrome window, so while Pinkie Pie Prefers Her Pasta Plain was the second most voted fanfic of the week with a score of 2.5, the number one with a score of 2.0 was The Naked Singularity, a random comedy that is rated teen for sex, with Twilight Sparkle. Why is it always the comedy ones with sex are Twilight? This is interesting. It includes Twilight, Rainbow Dash, Rarity, Fluttershy, Spike, and Princess Celestia. This should be interesting. It's 10,000 words. I'm not going to read all of that. I'm going to try to read a lot of it, but whatever happens in an hour happens. So at 10 o'clock my time, which is it's 9 o'clock my time now, so an hour, I'm gonna just find a good spot to stop and pause there. So that's what we're gonna do. Here we go. The candles on Twilight Sparkle's desktop guttered weakly. She had relied on them for light for so long that they were burned down nearly to nubs. Thin trickles of wax dripped down her sides and onto her desk, unnoticed as she scribbled feverishly in her notebook. Behind her, Spike mumbled in his sleep and rolled over, putting his tiny blanket tight over his shoulders. She stopped writing and froze, her hooves covering the notebook, until she was sure he remained asleep. It wouldn't do for Spike to read this. Oh no, this was definitely not for foals, or hatchlings for that matter. She slowly straightened back up as his quiet snoring filled the room. "Oh, evening glimmer," she whispered, uncovering the notebook. "You don't care if anyone sees, do you?" She dashed off another sentence, the tip of her tongue peeking out between her lips. Another chapter done. Through the window, she could see stars beginning to fade. The first light of dawn was still an hour or two away, and she had written all night the night long. Again, Evening Glimmer's story, her story, needed to be told. She wondered if she was becoming obsessed. It had happened with her before. Magic, friendship, reports, centipedes. Probably just part of her personality. Fortunately, her friends were always there to keep her level. She watched the horizon slowly begin to lighten, the black of night washing away to a pale gray tinted with pink. Maybe it was time to talk to her friends about this. One friend in particular. I have a confession to make. Well, I have a confession to make. Violet paused, a cup of tea held at her lips. For a brief moment, she thought she had misheard. So unexpected were the words. The sound of ponies ordering food, eating their lunches, and chatting with friends filled the silence that followed. The everyday commotion of life in a small town. Confessions, however, were not an everyday occurrence, and certainly not for Violet. She set the tea down and leaned forward. "I'm sorry, darling. Come again?" Twilight Sparkle glanced around nervously. She blushed, though only her closest friends could have noticed beneath her purple coat. Her ears wilted, and she hushed to whisper, "I said I have a confession to..." Oh. Her voice was soft but intense. "Oh?" This was going to be good. Twilight Sparkle, of course, of all ponies, caught in an indiscretion. Was it a stallion, a mare, two stallions? Her heart trembled with excitement. "What is it, dear?" Twilight glanced at the tables around them, searching for eavesdroppers. The few ponies seated nearby were engrossed in their own conversations. Lunch hour was nearing its end, and there was nothing unusual about friends having a quiet talk about at their favorite little corner cafe. Still, Twilight seemed nervous, as though royal guards were about to leap from the shadows and slap her on change. Royalty's anticipation jumped another order of magnitude. "I'm writing a novel," Twilight whispered. Royalty blinked. "A novel?" she blurted. A few ponies glanced in her direction for a moment, before returning to their own conversations. Twilight flinched, a pained look on her face. "Rarity!" Royalty fought back a swell of disappointment. The juicy confession wasn't so juicy after all. She gave Twilight a patronizing smile, and reached out to pat her face shoulder. That's what has you so worried? She asked. Twilight, there's nothing wrong with being a novelist. I thought you'd understand, as a librarian and all. Twilight grabbed Rarity's hoof like it was a lifeline. It's not that. It's. She trailed off, blushing again. Rarity raised an eyebrow. It's what? Twilight took a deep breath. It's a romance novel. She spoke the last two words. It's a romance novel. She spoke the last two words slowly, as though they had tasted bad in her mouth. The disappointment ebbed, replaced by a cautious interest. Perhaps all was not lost. You don't say. That's perfectly fine, Twilight. Respectable, even. Twilight perked up. The haunted expression faded from her face, and her ears swerved forward. It is? But I thought. You thought they were trashy? Rarity said. She waved the hoof dismissively. Twilight, romance novels are not the best-selling books in all equestria. There's nothing ponies want more than to read about the triumph of love over adversity. Oh, are the best-selling... Oh, I'm sorry about that. She sighed quietly, her eyes losing their focus. Why, I have my own little collection of romance novels back at the boutique. You do? Twilight seemed almost back to normal. Hopeful, even. Well, of course. They're confusing the terms romance. Twilight thinks romance means sex. Rarity means romance means, well, romance. Of course, darling. A mare is entitled to her fantasies, after all. It's not surprising that a pony as educated as you would try hoof at writing. Twilight was quiet for a while as she digested that thought. Eventually, she nodded, a relieved smile on her face. Maybe I am worrying too much. Thank you, Rarity. You're a good friend. A true, true friend helps a friend. Well, of course, Rarity did her best not to smirk. So conversation turned more mundane topics, and soon she had completely forgotten Twilight's novel ambitions. The parcel was waiting on Rarity's doorstep when she opened the boutique the next morning. There was no note attached, just a purple starburst printed on the plain brown paper wrapping. Rarity held the loose-leaf pages of a manuscript from within when she picked it up. She smiled to herself and brought it inside. There were no customers yet, and unlikely to be any for several more hours. She could have passed the time working on other projects, or sorting her inventory, or balancing the books, or any of the dozen other things a small business owner needs to do to keep the ship afloat. Instead, she settled down on a plush couch near the eastern window, drinking in the early morning sun, and pulled apart the twine string sealing the package. Sweetie Belle was already at school. In a few hours, she would return, along with her two filly friends, and they would do the... Hold on a moment. There are no customers yet, and not likely to be any for several hours. Yet, Apple Sweetie Belle will be home from school in a few hours. So, it's in the afternoon, but there are no customers yet. And there aren't likely to be any for several hours. When do they normally show up? 10 o'clock at night? I mean, really? Anyways. Along with her two filly friends, and they would do their best to burn down the boutique. But that was several hours in the future. Look at this. Several hours and a few hours are not synonymous. No, you can't do that. Stop it. What are you doing? Stop. What's up with several hours in the future? For now, there was peace. A few pages couldn't hurt, she thought. Besides, this was a favor for a friend. What was more generous than helping out a friend? Nothing. That was what? She lifted the first page into the air before her and began to read. This is terrible, Fluttershy said. She winced at her own bluntness. Sorry. Don't apologize, Rarity said. She was morose, her mane fuzzled from hours of pouring through the dense prose, incomprehensible dialogue, and wooden love scenes that populated Twilight's novel. Not even a novel, she corrected herself. It was a mishmash of incoherent scenes connected with sordid, trashy glue. This sounds a lot like a story I've read before, where what was it, the ship off? Yeah, the ship off, Where Twilight and Rainbow Dash tried to write a novel stories, Twilight wrote a 600-page novel that was bland and boring and awful pacing and whatever. And Rainbow Dash wrote a quick one-shot of her and Twilight's mother, which... Bleh. And then Rarity showed them why it was bad. This seems to show up a lot. Twilight writes an incoherent fic or a story because she's a nerd and she overdoes things, and she just writes a stupidly long story with terrible pacing. And then Rarity is the critic that comes along and says, no, 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 that's horrible. Why is Rarity so good at writing? I don't understand this. I understand she's a fashionista, but why is she... I mean, not to say that she can't be, but why? Why Rarity? I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, fashionista isn't just one-sided. She's got to have layers. Or I don't know. I am tired. It's been a long day. After that other drag of a story, this one seems to be even longer. But there's no one even watching either. I mean, I haven't had a single response. I mean, I guess you're all probably watching this on YouTube. Which means I gotta do it anyway. I just, I feel like I'm talking to the wall because there's no one watching. But anyways, back into the story. Da, 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 da. It's the truth. I feel horrible though. What am I supposed to tell her? Hello, Twilight. I just finished your story and I discovered absolutely no redeeming qualities in it whatsoever. I suggest you burn it before anybody else sees it. I've wanted to do that to so many writers that have sent me a story. Oh my goodness. Fluttershy considers that. To her credit, she didn't think about it for very long. I don't think that's a good idea. Maybe you should just tell her it's a good first try? Rarity looked at her flatly. Her horn glowed, and a random page from the manuscript floated through the air toward her. She cleared her throat and began to read aloud. Oh, that's right. I said I would do this. You know what? No one's watching. I'm tired. Screw this. I'll make it later.